So, yesterday morning, in the early morning, I was actually pulling an all-nighter, so I was awake when this news was breaking, when I normally would have been fast asleep. There was what could have potentially been a 9/11 level disaster, pretty much, in terms of, like, destructive scale and, cost of life. A massive container ship called the Dolly ended up crashing into a strut, like a big support beam, for the Baltimore Key Bridge, causing an instant collapse into the ocean. My understanding from what I remember about the story is that the water below ranges between 50 and 90 feet deep with strong currents, and it's Baltimore, so I'm not going to assume the water is warm and pleasant. I'm going to assume it's cold, frigid, and quickly hypothermia-inducing. And maybe even infested with bull sharks on top of that, for all we know. But pretty much immediately the bridge collapsed, like literally instantly. It's all caught on video, there are several angles of it, and the only silver lining of this story is that the bridge was partially closed at the time for road work. So the majority of missing persons and casualties so far, at least as last time reported, I mean, I obviously read up on this morning, and now it's 4 p.m., so considering this is 2-day-old news, a lot will have unraveled since then. A lot of the people who fell and are now missing were service workers. They were people working on the bridge when this all happened. Anyway, Baltimore Key Bridge collapse latest updates. 2 bodies recovered as search effort concludes for the day. The only silver lining being most of the bridge was closed, so there was mostly just workers on there and far fewer, like, people in general. So it wasn't like a billion cars trying to get across the bridge during morning rush hour. It was the early morning, and it was shut down for work, so while there was a lot of innocent people on there who did not deserve to either die or get hurt or end up in this situation, you could arguably say it was the best possible scenario for this to happen. Like, on a scale of it happening at rush hour when the bridge is fully open and packed with cars with, like, bumper-to-bumper traffic, and this situation, this is literally the one scale disaster of how it could have gone. Yeah, it very nearly was, like, potentially thousands of deaths, legitimately, had this not happened literally with the most opportune circumstances possible. Obviously, the most opportune would have been nothing happened and nothing bad went down, but, like, if the bridge was going to collapse like this, you couldn't have asked for a better time for it to happen, really. I know it sounds weird, but I mean, I don't want to make this all just a doomer video, right? Like, there's got to be a silver lining. Baltimore Key Bridge collapse. Latest updates. 2 bodies recovered as search effort concludes for the day. The fact they've only recovered 2 bodies and there were at least dozens of people on the bridge means there are going to be dozens of casualties. At this point, anyone who fell in either died on impact or died shortly after. There's no way that after this long, people are surviving in the water and search teams have not found them. It is unfortunately a bad sign. It is a bad sign in a situation like this. They haven't been found. Like the majority of them. 2 people? 2 bodies recovered? Only 2 bodies, too. That's the thing. There's a lot of bodies they're going to find. Baltimore police said Wednesday that they'd found the bodies of 2 people killed when Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed early Tuesday morning. Authorities said 8 workers were fixing potholes in the bridge when the cargo ship Dolly lost power and struck it early Tuesday morning, causing it to collapse. 2 of the workers were rescued. At Wednesday's press conference, state officials said they were moving from a recovery effort to a cleanup operation, removing debris that is preventing divers from accessing the area where additional victims are believed to be. Once the cleanup is complete, the search for bodies will resume. Here's what I'm going to take a wild guess at. I don't like to speculate on stuff like this, but I mean, we've all seen the video. We're going to get a big briefing from the rescue teams in the next few weeks, where they're going to explain that they have found dozens of bodies. And where will the bodies be? I think they're going to be trapped in cars and tangled up in, like, the metal at the bottom of the channel. Because even though everyone was on top of the bridge and the bridge collapsed downwards, at some point that had to have rotated and things sunk and moved around and shifted and found their level under the water. And a lot of people and cars and vehicles were probably trapped under. Imagine how big a bridge is. Like, imagine like a segment of a bridge is on top of you or above you even, and you're like under it, and you have to swim out from under it to get up to the surface from 90 feet, 50 to 90 feet under the water at night in the pitch black. A lot of people were probably trapped under there and didn't make it. I know it's a grim thought, but I think that's probably the news we're going to be getting, is that they're going to be recovering a lot of bodies from under, like, in the debris under the water. Yeah, I should probably show the video, right? Like, I can kind of illustrate to you how there's very clearly a fair amount of traffic on the bridge, not as much as there could have been, but there were cars and people on that bridge. 2 survivors is not the maximum amount of survivors they could have saved. That is not how, like, 4 people were not the maximum amount of people on that bridge. Let me see if I can find it. Key. Bridge. Collapse. All angles, maybe? Oh, here we got the latest. We got the latest from this local news outlet.
While you were sleeping, shocking video today.
God. The insane thing as well is how much of the bridge this took out. Like, it feels as though all of these struts are made so that if this strut failed, the nearest weakness would be here, right? Like, you would think it would just, like, break off here, and so it would cause the minimum amount of damage, but, like, this ship hit that one strut, and you have to look, like, you have to imagine the scale of this thing. This is like a sideways skyscraper floating on the ocean. And there are no brakes on the ocean either, so you can't really, like, slow down or stop very quickly. And they ran out of power at the last second. So when this thing hit, everything up to here collapsed. And it's so much bridge. It's so much fucking bridge that collapsed. Like, you would think it would be, like, this bit of the bridge would collapse and everything else would be fine. Maybe just, like, this bit would have collapsed. But this all did, too. So much more than you would have expected collapsed. The fact is, there's literally nothing they could have done to prepare for a situation like this, other than just not allow ships this big to go underneath this bridge, because literally, you can't stop that much force from destroying something like this. It's just physics.
Out of Baltimore, this is all that is left of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, one of the main traffic routes through the city. And it was hit.
This is one of my nightmare deaths, by the way. Falling followed by drowning might be literally my worst scenario for dying.
By a container ship. You could see how that collision caused that bridge to snap in several places. Look at that there, plunging to the river below in just a matter of seconds.
That's the ship.
Now,
you can see everything goes black seconds before it hits, like power went out. Clearly they were already having problems with their power, and it just cut seconds before they hit, because, like, why weren't they steering out of the way? But they were heading for that strut at breakneck speed.
It was hit by a container ship. You could see how that collision caused that bridge to
there's
snap
light.
in
There's
several
light.
places.
There's light.
Look at
the lights go out when they hit the strut. Interesting. So whatever power problems they were having were not visually there at all. You couldn't see power problems. At least the layman couldn't.
that there, plunging to the river below in just a matter of seconds. Now, what we know here is that construction workers were on the bridge at the time of the collision. Emergency responders say that they are searching for at least 6 people.
They gave a warning prior. Yeah, it seemed like there were cop lights on the bridge, weirdly enough. I was wondering why that was the case. Like, if we go back to the video. before it hits. Some of these lights blink like police lights, red and blue. So I was wondering, like, I guess it makes sense that there were cops on the bridge just by chance, but yeah, I think they'd given a warning and there were attempts to shut the bridge down and evacuate people before it hits. So it's possible they had more warning than we know, and there was far less people on the bridge than we know. 4 minutes prior, that's a fair amount of warning. If they could get to the bridge in 2 minutes, that gives 2 more minutes to communicate you need to get off the bridge and get a fair amount of people off that fucking bridge before it collapsed. I'm really glad that it seems like every possible harm-reducing factor occurred for this situation. But, like, assuming that you can't prevent this from happening. It seems like every harm-reducing factor possible was able to occur. And that's at least a bright side, right? Like, it was really late. Like, 3 a.m. it happened. Like, or 2 a.m. I think it was. Like, the worst time in terms of, like, traffic. You know, there's no traffic, right? There's no one on the road at that time. It's not morning or afternoon rush hour. The bridge was already closed for maintenance, and they had 4 minutes warning to evacuate at least some people off the bridge. I know I'm not making light of the situation. It's a fucking tragedy, but I'm trying to give you guys a little bit of hopium here.
That collision caused that bridge to snap in several places. Look at that there, plunging to the river below in just a matter of seconds. Now, what we know here is that...
How scary must it be? Not just the sensation you feel as, like, gravity disappears from out beneath you and you go into 0G as the bridge and you and your car are falling. Imagine the terror of everything going black as you're falling. And you know that in just a second you're about to feel the force and consuming cold darkness of the water below. Blacking out? Did you not see? Look how lit up the bridge is. The bridge has tons of lights. Here, before it collides. The bridge is all lit up. Now imagine you're on this bridge and you're one of the cars that falls in. As you're falling, you experience everything cutting to black because all the lights on the bridge go out. All the power gets cut.
A container ship.
Watch.
You could see how that collision caused that bridge to snap in several places. Look at that there.
And it stays lit up here for quite a bit.
Plunging to the river below.
Boom. This moment right here where you've been falling for a second and then everything cuts to black. And you know that in a second you're about to feel the impact. God.
Below in just a matter of seconds. Now, what we know here is that construction workers were on the bridge.
Literally my nightmare. Literally my biggest nightmare.
At the time of the collision, emergency responders say that they are searching for at least 6 people. NBC's Ryan Nobles has the latest.
The search and rescue efforts continue here at the site of the bridge collapse in Baltimore, Maryland. The Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed after a container ship, a 1,000-foot container ship, collided with the base of the bridge, collapsing the bridge in just a matter of seconds. And since that moment at 1:30 in the morning, rescue crews have been frantically searching for a group of construction workers that fell into the water as the bridge collapsed. At this point, rescue workers believe that they are searching for 6 people. They did rescue 2 people from the icy waters, one of them sent to the hospital.
They're only looking for 6. Maybe there was like a dozen people on the bridge. They might have really been able to evacuate this thing. It's still a tragedy, but it's very possible this was like way more harm reduced than we even thought. Because that's a very few amount of people to be looking for. But I guess they could just be doing broad searches too. Like those are just the people they know are missing since the bridge collapse, and it's possible there are other people that just haven't been reported missing.
Hospital, the other is okay. At this point, the investigators believe that this was a terrible accident, that something went wrong with the container ship, and they say that the crew on board the ship actually signaled.
Yeah, to be very clear here, the bridge did not fail. The bridge did its job till it died, okay? The boat, the ship, is what did not do its job. And from what the evidence we have so far, there seems to be no indication that this was the fault of, like, any of the crew or captain. At best, this was the fault of the company that manufactured and operated and licenses licenses the boat and sends it out, because the ship was what was flawed, and it wasn't inspected well enough, clearly, or was allowed to continue shipping despite failing an inspection.
Back to the shore that they were having a problem, and that allowed them...
This ship has crashed before, by the way. It famously had maintenance failures, yeah.
...to stop vehicular traffic over the bridge, and they believe at this point that there are no cars or vehicles of any kind that actually fell into the water, and that meaning...
Okay, that's really good news. Maybe they really evacuated this thing. That's fucking great.
...that there aren't survivors trapped in cars underneath the river water. Now,
although that could just be them saying that to keep people calm, because there's literally nothing at this point they can do to save those people. So they would just be admitting, yeah, we're looking for potentially hundreds of dead bodies in the channel here, trapped in their cars. There's only 6 people left on the bridge. I hope so. I hope that's actually the case, and this isn't just like either A, a mistake, or B, them just kind of giving us a more light story for now until they've got more concrete answers.
This was an extensive search and rescue effort. It brought in aircraft, helicopters, airplanes, boats, dive teams, and also sonar equipment to search for survivors under the water. And officials are insistent that they are focused completely on that effort before they even begin the talk of
How do you even check if there's anything underneath the ship, though?
Building, which will be an extensive process and something very important to this region. This bridge saw more than 35,000 vehicles cross over it on any given day. It is a main traffic artery.
That really tells you how they really managed to get this bridge empty. Divers is how? God, I hope the people who dive in that mucky-ass water get a lot of money. Oh, Jesus. What a tragedy. I'm really glad it like, went the best it possibly could have, but what a bitter thing to wake up to, and just to, like, if this happened in your community, it's got to be terrifying. And on top of that, the lasting impacts of this collapsed bridge, beyond the death toll and injury toll, are even worse when you consider the grand scheme of things, because tons of businesses and companies required the transport that bridge offered. I'm not saying, oh, the poor corporations. I'm saying, oh, the poor people who rely on the things from those corporations, because this is going to make a lot of prices locally more expensive. There's going to be a lot of low-income families in Baltimore where there's a lot of low-income families who are going to see price increases on a lot of things because one of the biggest shipping routes by road just collapsed into the fucking sea. I saw there was a few articles coming out from economists already talking about how this is going to have a pretty substantial impact. Oh, and on top of that, of course, you've got the rights reaction. They're very, very predictable reaction, where they have had to claim that this is the fault of every single right-wing culture war thing they're mad about. One of the biggest being, of course, the idea that this was the fault of DEI. It was not the fault of DEI, obviously, but apparently that's what we're doing now. In fact, look at this post that just kind of really makes it clear. 13,000 likes, too. Oh, these right-wing checkmark accounts are crazy. This is Baltimore's DEI mayor. That's right. This guy is claiming that the black mayor who was elected, because that's how mayoral campaigns work, was appointed via DEI. Now, obviously, that's not what they mean. This is them just admitting that DEI means black people. This is Baltimore's black mayor, or as he says, DEI mayor, on the collapsed Francis Scott Key Bridge. It's going to get so much worse. Prepare accordingly. God. Remember, a lot of these people are all about fear-mongering, about how the world is ending constantly. They're literally like... They're literally doomsayers.
Everyone, this is a unthinkable tragedy. We have to first and foremost,
he's young for a mayor, or looks
for
young
all
for a
of
mayor.
those who are impacted, those families.
I like
pray
it.
for our first responders and thank them, all of them working together, city, state, local.
He doesn't even come off disingenuous or scripted here, honestly. Like, I'm not even just saying this because he politically agrees with me and whatnot. I'm, like, literally, just the way he speaks, his personality, his, like, body language, everything comes off as unscripted. It doesn't come off like, I want to say thank you. Like, it doesn't come off like it's just some recited bullshit, you know? This literally comes off like a genuine, like, this guy's sad that a tragedy's occurred in his city. And he's actually thankful to, yeah. The mayor of Baltimore is 39. That's pretty fucking young for a mayor. 39 years old. Pretty young. I like it.
Those families, pray for our first responders and thank them, all of them working together, city, state, local, to make sure that everyone.
Yeah, somehow that's evil, and it's gonna get so much worse, guys, because of Baltimore's DEI mayor. Jesus Christ. What are the comments like? I actually like this comment. DEI is the new N-word, I guess. Yep. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Maybe that's what we'll title this video. DEI is the new N-word. I don't know. I don't know if YouTube's going to let me get away with that one.